and appreciate you guys being here today. I wanted to say that in addition to kind of unpacking and rolling out the MEAS training today, that tomorrow Dr. Huff has cordially invited us to be a part of something that I also think is equally as important. And tomorrow afternoon, in addition to a recap maybe of what we did today, will be a broader agenda including a lot of things that are very, very important, because there has been developments over the summer, like the elimination of the MEP, which I think is a good thing, but we need to talk about how that came about or came to be so people are comfortable with that. Lots of different implications of data. David's going to provide a great overview of where we are with the CAPE process. His writing team will be unveiling their current status on the report, which is great. So there's some good things happening tomorrow afternoon, and I know people are tag teaming a lot to make sure that we're covered both today and tomorrow, and should some of the programs not be able to be there tomorrow afternoon, Karen's going to keep tabs on that, and we'll get back with you and make sure you're not missing anything. So a good couple of days of training, exposure to some of the good things that are happening, and appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'm going to hand it over to Dean Huff, and you guys have a great afternoon.
So, please hold your applause until all the talkers are done. So I'm sitting over here next to Chris, and Chris says, "What are you going to say to this group?" So I told him, and he gets up and tells you everything I was going to say. I got nothing to say now. Way to go. No, let me extend my welcome as well. I'm never for loss of words. So I'm going to start with a distinguished professor in the back. Steve Willis, you were recognized at the faculty luncheon. Were you there? Oh, okay. I didn't see you. Steve is one of 6, I think, of our professors who received the Professor Incentive Salary Award. And it made me think, as I look around here, we've never been in better shape because we have our full professors, we've got associate, assistant professors, we got Jamie, brand new, sitting here. We've got per course, we've got brand new people who have not done this before. You're making me nervous. Is this not working? Okay, sorry about that. I don't really need it. Is this thing working, though? So you can't hear me? Can you guys hear me back there? Good, because I was going to start all over. But it is, and so I will tell you what old people do. I'll tell you a story, just a little bit. And I don't mean this to be offensive, but it's honestly, it is the truth. I remember when I first started, and all those bad stories you hear about the student teaching experience, whether it's the bad student teacher, the bad cooperating teacher, the university supervisor who doesn't show up, doesn't know where the school is, or you've heard all that crap, right? I got to tell you, it's not just accreditation. We've never been in a better situation, really. We have great supervisors, and I'm not saying that to play to the audience here. I say that all the time. Our cooperating teachers are getting better and better and better, and in fact, earlier today, I kind of stretch the truth a little bit from time to time, but I was saying we're turning this around where 2 weeks into the semester, we still don't have a placement for somebody. So we call one of our buddies out there in the school and we say, "Can you put this person somewhere?" And they give that person to a first-year teacher who doesn't want them. And okay, that's the bad stuff, right? That's kind of turned around. We do have districts. I don't know if I should name them or not. I'm thinking 3. One that's really close, and 2 a little bit farther away, that are contacting us and wanting to work with us. Because the perception is we've chosen the best schools, the best teachers, and the best supervisors, and we're doing it right. And I think that perception is pretty good. And then the last thing on all this, why is it so important? Well, it reminds me of my first job. I worked for Colonial Bakery, and Jack Miller and I go in the evening and put on our bakery outfit after school, working our way through college, and we'd drive a little bread truck around, and we'd go to supermarkets and get the bread out of the back room, put it on the shelves, we'd take buns to restaurants and stuff like that. We're making $1.85 an hour. I remember it really well. Of course, gasoline was a quarter too, but anyway, so our sales manager gets the 4 of us who do this job together and was telling us that it's the most important job in the whole bakery. And so I said, "Well, Mr. Schultz, if this is the most important job, how come we get paid the least?" That was the last day I worked for Colonial Bakery, so I then went and worked somewhere else. But it's kind of that way. The people who work directly with our student teachers, I don't care if you're per course, full professor, new person, whoever you are, staff people who help us, all the research on this says this really is the critical thing, you know, and there's a lot of national research on successful people. And internships and mentors are the two things that successful people cite as the most influential things to make them successful. So here we are at the end, sort of an experience for our students. And the most important thing is the interaction with that teacher, with your supervision in a good school. And so that's why we're here today, to go over a whole bunch of stuff. And whenever I tell you, because I've been doing this for way too long, so I'm not going to be doing it much longer. A little hint, you're going to hear about that tomorrow, okay? But the thing is, it is better and better and better. We do a better job. I would say, I don't want to end on a downer, but kind of parenthetically, isn't it ironic that education is so highly criticized when we're doing it better now than we ever have, really, with all the challenges? But we live in an ironic age, but that's it. So be positive. Thank you for your work that you do. Help us turn these student teachers, interns, into great teachers. Work well with those cooperating teachers, those master teachers. Do a good job, and there will be an extra lump of coal in your stocking this Christmas. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody. I hope everyone's having a good day today. It's nice to see a bunch of familiar faces again. I know I'm having a good day. Part of the reason is because today's Thursday and tomorrow I'm going to the lake. And the other reason is because I made it from my seat to the podium without losing the remote control, which works. Can everybody hear me on this mic? Awesome, thank you. So my name is Travis Marler, and I'm the coordinator of assessment systems for the education programs here at Missouri State University. And I'm just going to go through some general information really quickly for you today. Most of you have heard all this before, so it's going to be old hat. But I know there are some first-time supervisors with us, because I met Melanie on the way over here. And I also talked with Dr. Kleinsmith earlier, and he said his wife is supervising with us for the first time. Aha! So, glad to see you. Okay, some basic information that I'm going to go through here. I'm going to talk about a general timeline, as well as logging into TaskStream, which is our assessment system, and then give you some contact information. So, first of all, what's the plan for this semester? So in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be setting up TaskStream for our student teachers, supervisors, and cooperating teachers. That means I'm going to be actually creating a lot of accounts for some of our new supervisors and our cooperating teachers. And once I get that done, I'm going to be emailing everyone with an assessment checklist and timeline, as well as a set of instructions for using TaskStream. And like I said, a lot of you have already done it. Nothing new here, nothing's really changed, but for the new people, I hope it's going to be helpful. It's actually a short PDF document, lots of pictures, it's easy to follow. But if you get hung up anywhere along the way, definitely give me a phone call or an email and I'll help you out. So that's coming in the next couple weeks. At the midpoint of the semester, I'm going to be emailing all the student teachers with a reminder, just letting them know that their midpoint assessments are due. There are things they need to complete, as well as submit to you so that you can evaluate them. And then toward the end of the semester, probably about 3 weeks before it ends, myself as well as Amanda Bird and probably a GA or two will be monitoring our student teachers. We'll start monitoring them to make sure that they have actually completed everything they needed to and they've submitted everything they needed to, so that we can wrap up the semester as smoothly as possible. That's a little fuzzy. I'm not sure if you can read that very well, but it's a snippet from the student teaching assessment list and timeline that I'm going to be providing to everyone in the next couple weeks. Basically, it outlines each assessment that the student is responsible for down the left-hand side of the page. It tells them when they need to do something related to it, where it's assessed, the person they need to submit to, because some things go to you guys and some things go to the cooperating teachers. So this is what I'm going to be providing to you and the students to try to help everyone stay on the same page. And really quickly, I thought I'd talk about logging into TaskStream. Many of you will be able to log into My Missouri State and click on the Teaching and Advising tab. Oh, actually, let me pause for a second. You don't have to write all this down because it's coming in one of those emails in the next 2 weeks. So I'm just hitting it in advance. But yeah, a lot of you will be able to log into My Missouri State, click on the Teaching and Advising tab, and then the My TaskStream link within My Missouri State. That will log you directly into TaskStream, where you will find your student teachers. Some of you may not have access to the Teaching and Advising tab, and that's not a big problem. It just means you'll be logging in directly through the TaskStream website. Just real quick, if you find that's the case, you'll go to the TaskStream website, you will do a password reset, and then you should be good to go. And then finally this afternoon, probably the most important part, how to get a hold of me. You can send emails to taskstream@missourustate.edu. I actually recommend sending emails there rather than my personal email address. And the reason is we have one other person, Amanda Bird. She's the assistant coordinator. She also checks this email address. So if for some reason I'm not in the office, sick, or on vacation, which I will be in September because I'm going to be in Italy for 2 weeks. So if you email TaskStream at Missouri State University, there will still be someone in the office who can help you out. And finally, that phone number is my direct line. If it's pressing, just give me a phone call, and I'll do my best to help you out over the course of the semester. Does anybody have any questions for me? Awesome, wonderful. All right, well, I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Travis. He is, well, I don't know what to say. He's wonderful. Those of you that have worked with him, if you have any kind of issues, any kind of problems, he is right on it. And he's glad to help you. He's always pleasant. He's very, very good to work with. I do want to say, Dean Huff mentioned Dr. Atkinson. Oh, I'm wrong. I started to say something. He's like our newest person, and I thought he was the closest. I was going to say he's new because he's sitting up front. Everybody else is way in the back. But there's one person closer up. What's your name? On the blue shirt, right here. You on the right here in front of me. Blue shirt. Uh-huh. Oh, I couldn't see you. Michelle Satterfield. She's not new. She just likes sitting in the front. I couldn't. She was like, she knows me. I couldn't see who you were. I'm blind up here. First, before I do anything else, I would like to introduce you to the people in our office. For those of you that are new, most of you have met them, most of you have worked with them, but I just wanted to introduce them one more time. Julie Bandy is up there. Come over here and lean over the edge. Carlo, you get ready too. There's Julie Bandy. Most of you got your email invitation and your agenda and everything from Julie. She's a huge help in our office. It is 2018, not 2016, but that's okay. We got it right. She's an assistant coordinator in our office, and she works part-time, but she is a huge help. Carla Ferguson is another assistant coordinator, and then Amanda Bird is another one. And Amanda is the one that also helps with TaskStream. Carla also helps me a lot with certification, now that I've taken over that as well. So they're all there all the time. Each semester, we kind of divide up by subject area, who works with what students and their placements. So Carla usually does secondary and all of our out-of-area people. Amanda does early childhood, and Carla also does special ed, all the secondary, special ed, and out-of-area. Amanda does early childhood and elementary. And then Julie does all of our K-12 subjects, MAT, middle school. Anybody else, Julie? and whoever's left. She does everything. So that's how it is this semester. So if you have students in those certification areas, those are the people who place them in those areas, and that if you have questions or something, they might be able to help you with that. And then last, of course, but not least, is John Reinert. All of you know him. He does all of our compliance documents. He keeps all of our students, making sure they are compliant on every document they're supposed to have. He processes 8,000 to 10,000 documents a year, or a semester, I guess, maybe, for 1,800 students. He takes care of all of their compliance documents, and he stays on top of it. So he is a huge help in our office. So he'll be talking to you some more in a minute about the handbook and things like that. So I just wanted to introduce you to them so you know who they are, see a face. I also want to thank everybody for being here. I know it's crazy right now. School's getting ready to start. You've already got your students. Some of you have met with them. Some of you are trying to meet with them. Our out-of-area supervisors that are here, we really appreciate that. You came down from St. Louis and Neosho and Kansas City area, and we really appreciate that. And we also appreciate everything you do for our students. As Dean Huff said, sometimes it's a really overlooked position, but you guys do so much, and we rely on you so much, and the students rely on you, and the programs rely on you, and you do a lot. You are great mentors for our students and liaisons between us and the schools, and it's a big job, and you don't get a lot of appreciation for it, and we know that, but we do appreciate you, and we do know who you are and what all you do. The next item, let me make sure I don't lose my place here. If anything happens during the semester with your student, if you have any issues, most of the time, now that you are hired and assigned, most of the time anything you have or anything you need would go through the program of your student teacher. So if they're an elementary student, you would contact the elementary program coordinator. If they're a middle school student, you contact the middle school. If they're art, you contact the art program coordinator. So most of the time, now that our office has made all the assignments, or somebody else has let us know the assignments, and we've done all the hiring paperwork, now it's mostly you're working with the program. You can feel free to call our office if you need anything. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call us, and we'll try to help you every time we can. But most of the time, I'm just letting you know we're not putting you off. Most of the time you call us, we're going to refer you to the program because it's probably a program decision. So just letting you know that. One of the things we always tell you guys now that you're meeting with your students for the first time, this week probably, or next week, or last week, if there are any changes in the placement that we told you was the placement, if it's different in any way, please let our office know. We have to know that for our database, for payment of the cooperating teachers, for everything else. So let us know if there are any changes in your student, teacher, or teacher's placements from the one we gave you. Whether it's the cooperating teacher changed, or their name changed, or we have their email wrong, anything like that. Just let our office know that kind of thing, because we need to change that in our database so we can keep track of everybody. The next thing is, I usually forget to tell you guys this, and you guys that have done this for years are going to think, why has she never said this before? But I don't even know why I thought of it today. But we were talking about the MEAS evaluations, and we actually have evaluations on you guys as well. Your student teacher, at the end of the semester, your student teacher or teachers will be asked to submit an evaluation. It's just like a 5-question, it's very simple. And the cooperating teacher will also submit an evaluation. And we will send all of those to you. So most of you have gotten those in the past and probably thought, I didn't even know this was going to happen. But so they will do an evaluation, and we will send you that evaluation. Sometimes it's not, so we ask them to do that at the end of student teaching. Sometimes it's July, before we get those all collected, compiled, separated by supervisor, and sent out. So sometimes it takes a little while, but you will get those. So just wanted to let you know that. The next thing, I don't think I have anything else. I think it's John. So John's going to come up, and he's going to talk to you about the student teaching handbook, the online forms, travel expense form, things like that. So John?
I am currently behind about 300 emails right now. So what I'm going to say is not going to take very long. because I need to get back. But we're going to basically do an overview of where you can find the Student Teaching Handbook, the Student Teaching Forms, and if you're not aware, we are moved back into our newly renovated Hill Hall, and our suite is Hill Hall 212. And the really great thing about it is that it's basically a one-stop shop for education students, because the advisors are within our suite and they're down one hallway and we're on the other hallway, and so it takes a student all the way from initial advisement all the way to Kim through certification. And so we're very happy to be back there. We're going to start on the screen with Missouri State University. This is just the home screen. We also this summer had a name change for our office. So we are no longer Educational Field Experiences. We are Professional Education Services. And so if you go to the alphabet and click the P and go to Professional Education Services, this is the route you're going to go through to get to these things that I'm going to talk about. And so this is our new web page, and we've tried to put things together so that they are easier to find. And so since we're all here for student teachers, we're going to go down to the student teaching block. And if you scroll down just a little bit, one of the things that you see about in the middle of the page is the Student Teaching and Certification Checklist Timeline. Kim sent that to all of you the other day, and that is a checklist for the student teacher, because it came about from our surveys a couple of years ago. The students were asking, it would be so great if we had one document that we could go to figure out what we're supposed to do through this whole experience. And so there are probably some things that we have forgotten, but we think for now that it is a pretty complete document. We're going to talk about student teaching forms, and we're going to talk about the student teaching handbook. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, you'll notice there's a university supervisor section, and there's a cooperating teacher section. And so you can if you look on here, you can see that the travel expense form is here, but it's also on the student teaching forms where it's always been as well. So there's two places to do the travel expense form. One thing I do want to say about the travel expense form is that financial services really appreciates if you can submit those monthly. It makes their record keeping so much easier. And if you have any questions about the travel expense form, just contact Carol Hamilton in our office, and her information is in the Student Teaching Handbook. If we scroll back up and click on Student Teaching Forms and scroll down, you'll see that there's a teacher candidate section, a cooperating teacher section, and then if you keep scrolling, a university supervisor section, and then there's the travel expense form one more time. And so the new things that you see on the university supervisor section are the MEAS tools and the rubric which you will use. The forms that we have used in the past are still there. If you see any errors on any of these things, please contact me and I will get it changed just as quickly as I possibly can. If we go back a screen, you will see right under Student Teaching Forms, you will see the Student Teaching Handbook, and click on that, please. And there's always a date up in the corner. So the last time I made changes to this was August the 14th at 3:09 p.m. And so as you look at the handbook, if you see anything that needs to be changed, let me know, and I can get it changed that same day. It's a living document, and so it is up to date at all times. Okay. Anybody have any questions for me? Yes. My understanding, and Kim may want to weigh in on this, that was always an optional form, and it, I guess, does not fit in with the ME's information, and so that's the reason it was removed. Yes, and it still is on the DESE website, and so if you would like to use it, it will be there. Okay. Whenever you click on the ME's tools and rubric, it's going to take you to the educator preparation information where there's a bunch of documents that are listed on that page. And the tools and the rubric are just 2 of those documents. And so you might want to look at that carefully. Any other questions? Yes? That's another form that was an optional form, and it is on the DESE website. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Oh, I started to say thank you, John, but he already left. Clap really loud so he can hear you. He did mean he was going to get back to the office. He was quick. Okay, we are right on time, almost actually a minute early. We have with us next Jill Patterson from MSU, and I'm sorry I didn't write down your office. Are you with Human Resources or? Oh, she's with the English department. Okay, didn't even know that. Oh, I sort of said I didn't know that. Okay, she is here to talk to you about Title IX. This is a big thing, and she's going to give you some information that your students may come to you and ask you questions, or they may have an issue that comes up, and Jill's going to address a lot of that. And she also has just done, we want to say thank you. She has just done a new video for our students that is a mandated reporter training video. We require our students to do that every semester, or every student teaching, within 6 months prior to beginning their student teaching. They have to do the mandated reporter training. And she has just been nice enough this time to redo a video of that for us so that our students can use the MSU training, and they can just go do it online through their My Missouri State. It's very convenient. And so we really, really appreciate that. Jill Patterson.
So good afternoon, people who are sitting in the back row, which is like almost all of you. I was thinking when she was talking that I couldn't hear very well, but my friend, we have been spending a lot of time together lately, is here. Can you all hear me? Okay, all right. May I say before we get started that I'm not in the English department. I'm the Title IX coordinator. I was just having a dream that maybe my life could get easier. But I want to say that if you have any questions around mandated reporting, you should feel free to ask those this afternoon as well. The reason that we did the new video is because there have been a significant number of changes in the last couple of years around mandated reporting. And so if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to address those. I'm not looking for brown-nosing opportunities. I'm just curious, have any of you seen the new video? Wow. Oh, wait, nope, friend in the back row who I cannot see, so well placed. Yeah, okay, so if you ever do see them or if you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know. You'll know that I do this generally, speak for an hour without breathing because I have a lot of content I want to get to, but I really did it in that video because I just wanted to be able to say it all. But I noticed that I didn't really breathe. We are going to talk about Title IX today, and honestly, if I could blink my eyes and do something, I would ask you all to move closer. It does not seem like a jointed program because I want you to feel free to ask whatever questions you have. That's far more important than me going over the slides I prepared. I will tell you, have any of you seen one of my Title IX presentations before? Okay, I changed this one a little bit for you because I like you. I was raised by educators. I was thinking of how to say this as well. I have had a few issues in the last year or so that have come up around some of the placements of your students, so it's definitely important that we have this conversation. If I have to pick between talking about this and you all giving me some hypotheticals or some scenarios in this setting, even if you are 50 yards from me at least. I prefer that than talking about it for the first time at like 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night, which is sort of how the last one presented itself. And we worked our way through it, but you know, it's just better if we have an opportunity to contemplate things on the front end. So I want you to feel free to ask me whatever questions that you have. And so maybe in case some of you were thinking this would be an opportunity to check out, I will say to you that one of the most critical things that people don't understand about my office is that it's not just when two people are both involved with our system, and it's not just when it happens on our geography or our campus. There's application of Title IX that follows people anywhere you can think of. Downtown for an evening of joy that doesn't turn out that way. They could go home for the weekend and something happened there. They could be in an intern placement. They could be on vacation in Paraguay or Brazil. There's Title IX application because if it could affect a person's academic or extracurricular success, it's me. So you see how broad that becomes? So I want you to be aware of how many ways that we might be involved. So I usually start with this slide with a picture of Carrington in case anyone doesn't know where we're located. We have moved around quite a bit. We've been to the second floor, the third floor, and now we're back on the second floor again in the General Counsel's office. I look at my email last before I go to sleep at night and first thing when I wake up in the morning. So you should feel free to contact me at my office, on the email, on the phone. If you feel like you need my cell number, you can have that too. The reason that I'm making that point to you is that one thing I really want to make sure that I leave you with today, if you remember nothing else that I say, the type of incidents or issues that I deal with are extraordinarily time sensitive. And it's possible that some people in the room don't have a lot of exposure to Title IX yet, so I will begin with some overall information about that. But the reason I encourage you to contact me as soon as you know there may be an issue is because these things are so time sensitive and it's so critical for us to intervene quickly. And I'd be happy to take any questions or hypotheticals you have along those lines, okay? So, this is the language of Title IX. In my background, before I like to tell people I was duped into taking this gig here at Missouri State, I was first, I'm an attorney, and I was a public defender. I've been a prosecutor most of my career. I prosecuted child abuse, sexual assault, dating, and domestic violence, and then all kinds of other things along the way on a Friday in court. Then I was in-house counsel for the sheriff. And then, like I say, I was minding my own business in private practice, defending police and firefighters, and my friends duped me into becoming the Title IX coordinator here. That is, I just celebrated my 3rd anniversary of doing this work, which in Title IX years is easily 36 years. Because Title IX moves and changes at such an incredible clip. You just have to always be geared up for change and be kind of anticipating what's coming next out of the federal government and other things. So I also taught per course in the criminology department, and I spent 1 year full-time in the criminology department. And I used to tell my students all the time that in general, legislatures do a very poor job of writing laws. So, and I have at least one person nodding in agreement. Feel free if I say something smart to nod at me today. It makes me feel better. If I say something stupid, I'm from South Jersey. I can handle that, so just call that out too, okay? But the reality is the fact that this landmark civil rights law from 1972 fits on one PowerPoint slide in bold point type is pretty impressive. So I want to talk about the language and then tell you a little bit about what it means here for a second. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. You'd think that I'd have that memorized by now, but there's a couple things I want to point out about that. Absolutely, that applies to Missouri State, or we wouldn't all be sitting here, right? It's obvious that it applies to higher education public, right? But one of my other things I do, which might have some application in this setting, because I have trouble saying no to things, I am also on the school board of Springfield Public Schools. And I also prosecuted child abuse and neglect for a long time. So when I say to you that Title IX applies as much K through 12 as it does to advanced education, let me tell you, that's not a small thing. It's one of my soapbox moments that when you invite me to speak, you have to hear, because that's how I roll. If we do not do a better job of dealing with Title IX issues before people turn 18 and come here, we are never going to get ahead. I would think in this audience I could get an amen or something from that, but fine, just stare at me. We've got to figure out how to address these issues before people come here, or we're never going to get ahead. In fact, spoiler alert, Title IX issues continue to be on the rise, and I believe they will be for a long time. However, I did take off some of the slides today that explain a little bit of that, because I decided you might be more interested in some of the initiatives we have going on with some grant work here. But if you ever want to hear more about why I think all that is going so poorly, feel free to ask. I'm sorry, but I can't see this and see you. I'm trying to turn myself so I have a better angle, and you can still hear me? So. The other thing is, for those of you who had familiarity of Title IX before, like back in the beginning, at its inception, it was about gender equity in sports, which is why I title it the way I do. And it always fascinates me when I talk to my friends who are about 10 years older than me, talking to me about the opportunities they did not have in sports because of they were around the time of the change. So I also like to tell people that it depends on how you look at it, how far you think we've come in Title IX issues, right? Because participation in girls in sports is up like 300 or 400%. And I can tell you, as someone who has to spend all of her free time driving her daughters around to their various sports events, like there are a lot of positive changes in that regard. However, you might also consider the fact that our women's national soccer team is far more successful than their male counterparts, and yet there's a lawsuit going on right now because of how underpaid they are in comparison. So like most things in the world, it depends on how you look at it, how far you think we've come. So it has gone far beyond sports, and to be honest with you, here at the university, I do have marginal involvement, some involvement, I guess you could say, in some sports things having to do with the equity issues there. But my main part of Title IX has nothing to do with the sports component. The other point I like to make sure that I make with students, and I'll make it with you here today, is though gender equity on the sports fields was the initiative at the beginning, Title IX applies to men and women. This is not a women's right issue. It involves everyone, and I have to be very purposeful in my conversation about making sure people know. The majority of my cases do involve young women who were hurt in a situation, and I can give you a couple of examples of that later if you're interested. That still is the majority group who is offended upon. But men can be harmed by Title IX issues, both by other men as well as by women. I have had a finding or two where a woman is the one who perpetrated on a man. So be aware that this is very complicated, like most things are, and that we mean to be available to all people who have had an issue come up. So for those of you who aren't entirely certain what we mean when we say Title IX, this is a list of the types of cases that we work on in my office. And I am used to, at this point, being overseen by a federal agency. But if they ever call me on the phone and ask me what I think of some of their regulations and their rules and their wording, I would tell them that this is a nice place for them to start on changing it. Because they like to refer to everything by this term up here at the top, sexualized violence. And if you look at the list of things that we work on in my office, which include rape, sexual assault, dating and domestic violence, stalking, sexual discrimination, sexual harassment, as well as pregnancy rights, would you agree with me that not all of the things on that list are of a sexual nature? I mean, you don't have to watch Law and Order regularly to know that, right? And would you agree with me that not everything on that list is violent? I know you all mean to be nodding at me in agreement. We're making progress here, people. I am going to call on you. I do hope you'll speak to me when I do. Okay, so that's a terrible term because it misleads you on several levels about what we do. But the work that we do is contained on this list here, okay? So we haven't established policies and procedures, and for your information, we just had an update, a rewrite, some editing to make them more user-friendly. So we have some new policy language that's available on my website, if you wish to see it, that we are now using. The other thing is my website is actually updated and is pretty cool. I end up having a lot of people feel sorry for me around here, and I had a sweet man who teaches people how to do professional writing and work on websites, and he offered to send one of his graduate students over to revamp my website, and she did an awesome job. So not only is it updated and has accurate information, but it has a bunch of frequently asked questions as well as resources. So if you are interested, or you have someone who you're working with, a student or something, you can always refer them to my website, because it really is fairly helpful, I think, and I've started trying to put interesting topics like interviews or sketches from TV or an article that I think is interesting on there, so that, you know, people start to think to look at it occasionally. The other thing that this slide says at the bottom, and I don't know, since you decided to sit so far away from me, most of you, I don't know how well you can see these slides, and I also told them that they could provide them to you ahead of time. Did they do that? Okay, and just so you know, I'm going to go rogue on you, because they're not all the same. But you'll see that I was going to talk to you about pornography and sexting, and now I'm not. So you can think that's good or that's bad, depending on how you look at things. But what's critical at the end there that I have in red is to tell you that there are many things that people come to visit with me about that quite obviously you could decide to file a police report on if you wanted to. And so I want to make it clear to you, I just can't get comfortable with how far I have to lean forward on this. I'm trying. I could do that. I could do that. So this one instead of that one? Oh. I mean, things are getting better. Okay, so what I want to say to you, now I can't use my hand signals like I want to, but here's the police process over here. Here's my administrative process over here for the university. They are not the same thing. They are distinct and separate. Are there some times when I have something where someone went to the police and there's an internal administrative process going on? Yes. But sometimes somebody wants to come to me and decidedly does not want to go to the police. I suppose it's possible, although I wouldn't know about it, that somebody could go to the police and not come to me. I think there's a lot more times when they're with us and they don't necessarily want to go to the police. But here's what I'm trying to make clear to you. Those are not the same thing. They do not overlap. Though the content of the topic or the subject matter is the same, we keep them very separate. We do, Ashley and I both, support people if they want our help with the police process, because both of us have a lot of contacts there and a lot of information about the police process. So I, for instance, have gone with people to an interview. I have called or helped someone call the police. I have, sometimes some of you in the room know I can be slightly controlling on these matters, but occasionally there are police officers who aren't any good at responding to a case like this. So if I know that they want to talk to a police officer, yes, I will reach in and make sure they get to talk to somebody who I think is good at their job, because that's the kind of help that we should provide here. So I just want to make sure it's clear to you that these are not the same thing, and that people have a choice whether or not they want to go to the police or not. We do not make that choice for them. I also want you to know that you should feel free to raise a hand and ask me questions as we go. You do not have to wait till the end to ask me questions. So this is just one of the things I like to share with audiences in case you don't have a lot of background knowing about things like sexual assault and how they take place. It was always an issue of mine when I was prosecuting these cases that I thought that both mainstream media as well as the TV shows that are on really mislead people as to how frequent stranger attacks are, since they are incredibly rare. So I offer you this research-based statistic that is entirely consistent with my experience, that 80 to 90% of sexual assaults happen between people who know each other. So I like to ask audiences to contemplate and give me some ideas what you think it would be for a person who is experiencing a sexual assault committed by a stranger, someone they didn't know at all, versus someone they knew. It could be somebody where they used to be in a consensual romantic relationship and that kind of interaction between them used to be okay and it isn't now. It could be someone who's a friend, it's platonic, there was nothing romantic or sexual about the relationship and somebody sexually assaulted someone within that. It could be a classmate, it could be someone from a study group, it could be someone that you vaguely recognize but you don't really have any relationship with. And just so you know, I'm about to ask you a question and encourage audience participation, but anytime I ask for your participation, there are easily 86 good answers to any question I ask, so you should not feel pressure that I'm asking or looking for just one thing. So if I said to you, tell me some things you think a person would experience if the sexual assault happened between someone they knew as opposed to a stranger, what would you offer? Yes, sir. Excellent answer. He says he would think that perhaps there could be delay in reporting because the person would also be worried about doing harm to the person who harmed them, which is like two excellent points.